If you work in design long enough, you're gonna have a miserable client. In this video, we're gonna talk about your options for dealing with a miserable client. Hey, I'm Michael Janda. I've been an agency owner and a designer for more than 20 years. And in this video, we're gonna talk about your options when you have a miserable client, someone that you just can't stand working with anymore. Maybe they're abusive, maybe they don't want to stick to the scope, maybe the amount of money they're paying is not worth the trauma that they're bringing into your life. There are some options that you have when you have a client like this, and we're going to review those today in this lesson. Let's check it out. So option number one is the most straightforward, it's the fastest, it's the most easy way to get rid of this miserable client is just to give them their money back and move on with your life. Now, I understand that you've put time and energy and work into this project, and giving the client their money back might not be something you want to do, but I've done it many times. If the client is awful, I just give them their money back and move on. And I've done that with tens of thousands of dollars in the past in agency revenue just to part ways with the client. So it's kind of the fastest way to rip off the Band-Aid and get rid of this traumatic client that you have. Now, if you can absorb the financial losses, this is the fastest way to move on. And I'm going to give you a little script now on how you would do that with a client. Here's how you handle it if the client is so miserable and you just want to give them their money back and move on. This is a little script. This engagement isn't working out for either of us. We will be refunding your money and invite you to find a new vendor, a new designer. You can adapt that however you want, but that's the straightforward, direct, here's your refund, we're going to part ways and we're going to move on. Now, again, this is when the trauma is so big and you just can't bear it anymore. It's the fastest way to move on. And don't get overly concerned that this is going to have an impact on your ability to find new clients. A lot of times designers stay in this traumatic, abusive, challenging relationship because they're afraid, oh no, this client's going to go and speak bad about me to other people and then I'm going to get a bad reputation. Well, I can tell you if the project is miserable already, then firing the client isn't going to make it any worse. They're not going to badmouth you anymore. If anything, it is better for your reputation to part ways with the client and you take the action to move on. That looks better on you than just having the client badmouth you to the people that they know. The other thing I'd like to say about that is that there is no one single person that has so much influence that their bad review of you is going to inhibit your ability to find new great clients. Nobody has that much influence. You don't really need to worry about that. Nobody knows everyone and can badmouth you to the level that it's going to be detrimental to your business. So don't worry about that. Again, if it's traumatic, rip off the Band-Aid, give them their money back, and move on with your life. Okay, option number two, fire the client and negotiate a settlement. Now, you've done part of the work. You're entitled to be paid for the work that you've completed. You don't just have to give back all the money, although sometimes it's the easiest way, but don't feel bad standing your ground and getting paid for the work that you've completed. You're entitled to that. And it's a little bit more difficult to navigate that with the client than it is to just give them their money back and move on. But it's been done, and I've done it many times. When I have a miserable client, I tell them, hey, we can't work together anymore. We've done this much of the project. We deserve this much of the money. And then you can take the files and you can move on. So this is one of the reasons that it's so important to get paid money at the start of a project or throughout the engagement as you're delivering on the deliverables for the scope of the project. You want to be collecting money along the way, because if things get miserable and you need to negotiate a settlement, you want to have some of the money, and then you can just tell the client, we're going to keep this money and we're going to give you your files and you don't need to pay us anymore and we're going to move on. So let me give you a script for option number 2. Option number 2 goes like this. We have decided it is best for you to work with another designer to finish this project. We have completed 50% of the project. You have paid 50% of the fee. We will deliver the files to you today and we're just going to move on. So again, good to do if you've collected money and you approximate the amount of work that you've completed on the engagement. You tell the client, we're going to keep that money. We're going to give you your files and you can find someone else to work on this. Okay, so that's option number 2. Fire the client and negotiate a settlement. Let's go to option number 3. Option number 3 is finish the project, get paid, and move on. And I've done this a number of times as well. I've had clients that are miserable. The project is going terribly. Everybody is miserable. But we're getting close to the end of the project and it just makes more sense just to bite my tongue and suck it up and finish the work, get the rest of the money, and move on with life. And when you do that, it requires a little humility. It requires a little bit of just taking it in the chin when the client is so difficult to work with. But you get the money from the client, and that kind of is the salve for your wound. So finish the project, get the money, and move on. You've got to endure the emotional trauma and get through the project. Now, here's the script for that. We are happy to make these extra changes and look forward to wrapping up the project soon. So you're kind of just trickling in. Hey, client, sure, we'll make those extra changes. We're just looking forward to getting this wrapped up for you. Hey, client, we need your feedback because we're trying to get this project wrapped up for you. Hey, client, can you deliver that last little bit of assets so that we can get this project wrapped up for you? You're just dripping this into your communication that you're trying to get this wrapped up. You want to wrap it up and move on with your business. Option number 1 is give them all their money back and move on with your life. Option number 2 is fire the client and negotiate a fair settlement. Get paid for the work you've done. And option number 3 is to just suck it up and finish the project and then move on in your life. Now, those are really the 3 options that you have. You will get nervous that one of those could become legal. The only one that could become a legal mess is option number 2, where you and the client have to agree about the quantity of work completed and the amount that they should pay. Now, if a legal battle makes you nervous, then just go with option number 1. This is why I did option number 1 most of the time in this situation. And for me, it was option number 1 or option number 3. Because option number 2 requires this negotiation. And if you already have a miserable client where you are just struggling to see eye to eye, I hate the idea of negotiating something with that client. Now, I have done that, and I've done that successfully. I've had to get a collection agency to try and collect money from clients. I've gone through some of the legal rigmarole that you will have if you go with option number 2. I never like that stuff, so I don't do it very often. My preference, take your money and go away, or I'm just going to suck it up and finish it, and then I'm going to go away. And if you ever want to try and work with me again, it's going to be 50 times the price of what it was before, or I'll just say no. Anyway, so those are the 3 options, option 1, 2, and 3. And then here's the last little nugget to leave with you. When the emotional pain of working with this person or this client outweighs the financial gain, it's time to fire the client. That's how you know. When the thought of losing the money is less painful than the thought of continuing on, you know it's time to fire the client. All right, thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope it helps you understand how to navigate those miserable client relationships and those miserable client projects that happen sometimes. They happen to everybody. They were happening to me 15 years into agency ownership, still getting that miserable client that shows up, and you gotta know how to navigate these things. Hope this video helps. Thanks again. We'll see you again later.